G'day, mate. 40 here. So I just had an idea, and I'm calling it Vouch Nationalism. When I looked this up on Google, there were no results, zero results for Vouch Nationalism. So my idea is, if you want to own a gun, the easiest way to legally own a gun in a healthy society should be you should have to have a minimum of 10 law-abiding adults with perfectly clean records, both as adults and also as juveniles, vouch for you. And then if you commit a crime with that gun, then all those people who vouch for you should have to pay a very stiff penalty. Something, let's say, 1/40th the price that you pay. So let's say you use a gun in the commission of a robbery, you don't shoot anyone, but you end up getting 5 years in jail. Then all those people who vouch for you, they should have to serve 1/40th of that amount of time themselves. If you want to drive a car, all right, to get a driver's license, you should have to have 10 law-abiding adults with clean records vouch for you. And then if you go out and damage people with the car, then they should have to pay part of the price, right? And collectively, they should pay the entire price for the damage that you've done. So let's say you go out and you kill a valuable computer software engineer with your careless driving, right? And that guy's life can be valued at, say, $50 million, right? Then those people who vouch for you, they should all be on the hook for that money. So what do you think? Vouch nationalism, right? All the serial killers that I see who are going into schools and shooting up schools, they're all loners. Right? None of them appear to have a girlfriend. And they don't appear to have friends. They don't appear to have bonds. And people should be allowed to withdraw their vouch for you at any time and thus reduce the penalties for your bad behavior. So that way, people will be incentivized to not just build strong ties with other people, but to maintain strong ties with other people and to develop an excess number of vouchers so that if they fall out with someone or someone dies, that they have enough vouchers that they can keep on with their privileges. And there should be communities that are allowed to set up a certain number of vouchers to enter the community. You can do a lot more damage in a big city than living in an isolated country area. So big cities should be allowed to require you want to own a gun in New York City, you may have to have 50 adults vouch for you. And let's say you want to simply set foot on Manhattan, all right? You should have to have 25 adults vouch for you, right? So cities should be communities, towns, islands, states should be allowed to set their own vouch limit. So that way, if you're stepping into a town that, say, requires 25 people to vouch for you, even to just set foot in that town, then you can probably walk around fairly safely at night, right? Think about the ease of going on a vacation to a resort that's like 30 vouch resort. 30 adults have to vouch for you. 30 adults with clean juvenile and adult records would be required to vouch for you. I think this would be a really good solution to our overly individualist society and make it a little bit more corporate so that when you behave badly, then all those who vouch for you should have to pay the price. And I believe in this idea so much that I bought the domain name vouchnationalism.com. So you can roll over to Vouch Nationalism right now and you can read my thoughts on this intellectual movement that may well sweep the world. Vouch nationalism. I really think this is a good way forward. And if people don't want to abide by the vouch system, then there should be alternative ways. So I think if someone wants to have kids, they should be required to get, say, 10 other adults with clean records to vouch for them. And then they're entitled to all sorts of generous benefits. if you don't get people to vouch for you and you have kids, you should have to pay like an extra $10,000 a year tax fine to protect society from the damage that your unsanctioned, unvouched for kids may well wreak. And if you don't want to get, say, 10 adults to vouch for you to own a gun, then there should be alternative means where you get tested regularly, psychological testing, whatever the evidence shows would be a good way to make sure that someone is worthy of the privilege of owning a gun. So I think we give out driver's licenses way too easily. We allow people to buy and own guns way too easily. We allow people to have kids way too easily. We allow people to visit the nicest parts of this country way too easily, like Yosemite, right? If you're going to go to Yosemite, you should have to have 20 people vouch for you. This would require noticing and judgment, well, which is illegal in modern America. We're going to change things. Vouch nationalism. It's sweeping the United States as we speak. I even own the domain name Vouch Nationalism. And so let's say you grew up in a community where there are very few people with clean records. Well, you will be strongly incentivized to move outside and above and beyond your immediate community to form bonds and ties with people so that they become willing to put their neck out on the line. Say, this is my neck. And if I vouch for you, I am putting my neck on the line. So Rustin is here, and I would vouch for Rustin. All right, I would put this beautiful neck, this neck which supports one of the greatest minds of the 21st century. But I would put this neck on the line for Rustin to have kids, to own a gun, to have a driver's license, to visit Manhattan, to visit Beverly Hills, to visit Yosemite, to have a passport. All right, I would put my neck on the line for Rustin Shackelford because that's how strongly I believe in Rustin. And so if he behaves terribly, right, and gets punished, then I'm going to have to pay the price, right? And there aren't many people that I would stick my neck out for as much as I'd stick my neck out for Rustin. All right, so we will be incentivized to be very selective about the people we vouch for, because once we vouch for someone, we're then on the hook for their behavior. And let's say we start to become disturbed by their behavior, online or offline, we just withdraw our vouch. And if that takes someone from 10 vouchers to 9, then they can no longer legally own a gun. The police automatically get notified, right? If you're walking around in Manhattan and Manhattan has like a 30 vouch policy, and suddenly, thanks, you'll be my first call from the camps. You're welcome, bro. So you're walking around in Manhattan and you got into Manhattan because you just had those 30 vouchers, and then 5 people, discover things that you've said on Twitter and remove their vouchers for you. Like, the police will immediately be notified that here is someone who's in Manhattan illegally. This would create like good communities, right? Maybe you want to live in a place that requires a minimum of 20 or 30 vouchers. Like, what a great place to raise kids, right? Low crime rates, good people, law-abiding citizens. And, let's say you have it tough, you grow up in communities where there aren't many law-abiding citizens, then you're strongly incentivized to move out of those communities, form bonds with other people by, say, working for them, by showing that you're a productive and a good person, by demonstrating your skills, your morals, your good taste, right? You have to convince other people to sign on for you. And that's how it should be. You should not... People who just go through life alone, particularly young men, are very dangerous. Now, I would also like to raise the minimum age for buying a gun to 25. I think 21 would be a big improvement on 18. But I think 25 would be even a bigger improvement on 21. That's a separate issue. But I didn't come up with these brilliant insights just on my own. I mean, they started hitting me in synagogue today, and I just started sharing them with people, and no one came back with a good rejoinder. These is how weak the rejoinders were. Well, someone could get 10 10 vouchers and fool 10 people and own a gun legally and then go out and commit a mass shooting. Yes, they could, but the odds are severely reduced. We're not trying to create perfection here, right? This is not the world to come, right? This is not Jesus land, right? This is not the messianic age. This is just about making this world significantly better. And so, oh, well, what about those communities where, 1 in 3 people are felons and people with clean criminal records, both as juveniles and adults, are very hard to find? Like, what about people who grow up in a family where everyone's a felon or has some kind of dirty record? Well, those people will be incentivized to shape up, ship out, make it in the big world, form bonds and ties with others. And if they can't do it, they shouldn't get to own weapons. They shouldn't get to drive cars. They shouldn't get to walk around with good, decent citizens, right? To walk around with good, decent citizens is a privilege. It should not just be an automatic right. Just because you're breathing does not mean that you should be entitled to visit Manhattan or to visit Beverly Hills or to step into this church or that synagogue. So churches, they could have a 30 vouch minimum. Synagogues could have a 35 vouch minimum. Mosques should have like a 20 vouch minimum. Like, institutions get to choose, what number of vouchers they require. Health insurance. Think about how much more efficient and effective and healthfully incentivized health insurance would be if you had to get, say, 40 adults to vouch for you that you maintain good, healthy habits. And then if you, start packing on the pounds and engaging in antisocial behavior, people will withdraw their vouchers for you, and your health insurance premiums will skyrocket. Your car insurance premiums will skyrocket. So I just think this would be a good step forward. Age limits for everything should be raised. Yeah, 18 in 1934 is like 27 today. Yeah, certainly owning a gun, buying a gun, driving a car. So yeah, I'd like to make 18 probably the minimum age to get a driver's license. But I think vouching would be even more important. Like, I would rather see a 16-year-old who can get 10 adults to vouch for him. I'd rather see him on the road with a driver's license than an 18-year-old who's unable to get any adult to vouch for him. And the people who vouch, right, they are then on the hook, right? Their neck is on the line if you behave badly. So people will be strongly incentivized to make very judicious choices for the people they vouch for. So generally speaking, I would primarily be vouching for people that I know very well, right? And if they start straying off the derrick, to use a Jewish term, if they start straying off the path of Vouch Nationalism, then I'm going to have to withdraw my vouch. So people will be strongly incentivized to engage in pro-social behavior, to build ties with other people, maintain ties with other people, strengthen their connections with other people, right? And not be a jerk, right? Be a good person. So, Vouch Nationalism. Bye-bye.